Hi there, Animal Edit community. I wanted to do a video today on how we can connect with nature and with animals when we're feeling really disconnected or when we think we might not have any options, especially those of us who live in built-up metro areas and cities and big urban environments. I think it's really easy to lose that connection with nature and with animals and to feel like we don't have any options. We don't live near great big wide open spaces and beautiful parks where we can connect with animals. But I've been thinking about this, so I've got 3 tips actually to help you connect to nature when you feel like you're disconnected. And I think one of the biggest things is that in today's world, especially in urban environments, we have this image in our mind of what nature is and what animals are and what it means to connect. And I think that's we need to challenge that, because in reality we're always surrounded by animals. I think in any situation, it's just that sometimes we don't realize it. I have a blog post on this actually as well, and my first tip is that if you live in a city, or actually regardless of where you live, just to be more mindful of what you are actually surrounded by. So if you work in a CBD, for example, or an office building, and you have the opportunity to go outside at lunchtime, take a look around and just notice the animals that are around you. And it might just be things like pigeons or ants on the sidewalk or simple things like that, but those are obviously animals. And if you take the time to change your perspective a little bit, I think you'll see beauty and inspiration in these animals that you might not have seen before. I'll link to the blog post so you can read a little bit more about that. But that's my first tip, is just to challenge your perspective and think a bit more about what you are actually surrounded by and how it has its own inherent beauty. As well as animals, there's also things like plants that we sometimes don't notice. A lot of them these days are artificial and they're planted by councils and gardeners and things like that. But I have always actually found inspiration even in things like a little tuft of grass that's popping up between the sidewalk cracks. It's easy to walk over, but I think it's such an inspirational thing. Something's happened for that tuft of grass to grow, and yeah, I think you can find inspiration anywhere. I had to start walking because I was sitting still for too long apparently, so I was being bitten by mosquitoes. So this is my second tip. As you can see, I am in a forest, and it's a forest that I actually didn't know was here for years of living in this area. And so tip number 2 is to actually search, have a look online, or ask around for actual natural areas that you might be surrounded by without even knowing. This forest is huge, and I didn't even know it was here because it's just up the road, and it's actually on a road that we don't often use. But there's no way I would have thought that this place was here. And now I try and come here at least once a week just to be surrounded by green and nature. So that's my second tip, is to don't just assume that because you live in a city there's nothing natural around you that you can go and walk in. It might not be this big, but I bet there's something that you haven't heard of before. Tip number 3 is to see if there's any community groups that you can help out with. And again, I didn't know the extent of the community groups that are in my area, but there are groups that you can join to help re-establish natural habitats that are being affected by urbanisation. There are groups that you can join to help conserve species that are in danger of either extinction or of losing numbers. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there as well. And I think if you've got an hour or two a week to spare, there's lots of opportunities to get involved, and that's one way of reconnecting with nature as well. And it does take a little bit more time than just being more mindful, as I mentioned in tip 1. But if you're really craving connection with nature and with animals, there are certainly active ways that you can do that. And I guess what I'm getting at overall in this video is that I think sometimes we assume and we become so used to our everyday life and the norms that we've come to live with that we forget to look around. And I think if we change our perspective a little bit and we challenge our own assumptions about what we have access to, we can find some really beautiful things. So that's my challenge to you today, is maybe pick one of those things. If you've been feeling a little bit disconnected from animals and you think that nature is far from where you are, pick one of those things and, oh, there goes a wallaby. Pick one of those things and challenge yourself to think a little bit differently about it, and maybe do something active. And I guarantee you'll feel better. Like, if you can connect in some way with nature, it's such a revitalizing thing, and I think that we all need that these days, and on some level everyone is craving it. So I hope this is helpful, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.